Okay, today we're going to work on section 5.6. This is over parallel and perpendicular lines, and we're going to first talk about parallel lines. Parallel lines never cross, and the slopes are always going to be the same. So if I take a look at this first graph right here, and I count the slope rise over run of the red line, maybe I'm going to go from this point to this point. I'm going to rise 1 and run 2. Rise 1 and run 2. So the slope of the red line is going to be 1/2. The slope of the blue line, let's just say I'm going from that point to this point. Always got to pick a point where your grids come together. I would rise 1 and I would run 2, so the slope of the blue line is also going to be 1/2. So slopes of parallel lines are going to be the same. The next one here, it says I'm going to write an equation of the line that passes through 12,5 and is parallel to y equals 2/3 x minus 1. Now the way you can think about the information that I give you is the line that is on your note sheet. So this line right here, the 2/3 x minus 1, is always my line. That's Mrs. Defoe's line. The line you're going to write is your line. So remember, there's always two things you need to know to write the equation of a line. You need to know the slope, and you need to know the y-intercept. Remember, the slope is going to go in the first box, and your y-intercept is going to go in the second box. So here's what I know. My line and your line are parallel. They run side by side, so we know that their slopes are the same. If my line has a slope of 2/3, this is Mrs. Defoe's line, then your line is also going to have a slope of 2/3. So I'm going to take that 2/3 and put it up into here for the slope of your line. Then I'm going to take a look at this point right here. This point is 12,5, and that point does not make me smile. Remember, to make me smile, you have to have a 0 in the first part of that ordered pair, and it's not. So I'm going to take what I know, the 12 and the 5, and I'm going to put it into what I have right here. I'm going to put the 5 in for the y. I'm going to put leave the 2/3 for my slope, actually your slope. I'm going to put the 12 in for the x, and I'm trying to solve for my y-intercept or my b. Now you might have to listen to this a few times and walk yourself back through this because this can be a little bit confusing. 2/3 of 12 is going to be 8, and to get rid of that 8, it's attached to the b with a plus sign, so I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. So 5 minus 8 is going to be -3. I just found my b, or my y-intercept, so I'm going to walk him up and throw him in there for b, and I'm going to make sure that I put a -3 because it's a -3. So your line is going to be y equals 2/3 x minus 3. Let's try another one of those. Maybe you want to stop the video here and work yourself through the next one, see how far you can get before you have to play it. All right, here's my line. This is Mrs. Defoe's line. What is the slope of my line? The slope of my line is 2. Because your line and my line are parallel, if my line has a slope of 2, your line has a slope of 2. So I'm going to take that slope and throw it where it goes. A slope is always in front of the x, in front of the x, in front of the x. All right, now, am I happy? Does this point make me happy? Is the first number a 0? And it's not. So I got to do some extra work here. I'm going to take that stuff and put it in where it belongs here. I'm going to take the -1 and put it in for y. I'm going to leave my slope where it's at. The -3 goes in for the x, and I'm trying to find my y-intercept or my b. To do that, 2 times -3 is -6. To get rid of that -6, you have to add 6 to both sides. So -1 plus 6 becomes 5. What did you just find? You just found your y-intercept. So I'm going to walk him up and go plus 5 right there. That's 2x plus 5. Okay, the next part of your notes talks about perpendicular lines, and these are a little bit harder than parallel lines. I'm going to find the slopes of each one of these lines. This first line, let's see, I'm going to say I'm from here to here, so I went up 1 and I went over 2. So rise over run, the slope of this line is 1/2, 1 over 2. This one, let's say I go from here to here, I'm going to rise 2 and go backwards 1. Rise 2 and go backwards 1. can you see how these two numbers are related to each other? One is negative, one is positive, one is 2 over 1, and the other one is 1 over 2. So they are what we call opposite reciprocals of each other because they're different signs and they are flips or reciprocals of each other. So let me show you a few examples of what I'm talking about. If I said to you my line has a slope of, let's say, 5, your line, I'm going to use y for you, your line has a slope of, watch it, this is positive, yours is negative. Mine is 5 over 1, yours is 1 over 5. Let's try another one. If my line has a slope of 1/3, what is your line? Your line, mine is positive, yours is negative. Mine is 1 over 3. Yours is 3 over 1. How about one more? Let's say mine is negative 1. All right? Remember, mine is negative, yours is positive, and really negative 1, if I put that number over 1, it's still the same thing. So if you flip it, negative 1 over 1, even if you flip those ones, they're still going to be 1. So that's one that a lot of my students sometimes get hung up on, is when the slope is negative 1. All right, so let's try our first example here. Sorry about that. It says, are the graphs of the equation parallel, perpendicular, or neither? The only thing I care about when I'm talking about trying to answer this question are the slopes of the lines. This one has a slope of 4/5, but this one is a little bit harder because it's not in that slope-intercept form. You can get it there, and here's how you would do it. I'm going to divide everything through by a 4, and watch this. That 4 has got to go to both parts, so that's going to be negative 5/4 x plus 3. Watch that, negative 5/4, and then that's a positive 3. So let's see, all I care is the slope, the one that's in front of the x. This one's negative 5/4, this one is 4/5. So is one positive and one negative, and are they flips of each other? So these two equations would be perpendicular. They are perpendicular. All right, the next one I have, again, I have something that's not in slope-intercept form, so I'm going to divide everything through by 4. So I can easily tell what my, whoa, I got to back up. Sorry about that. Before I even do that, I have to take this 4x over to this side. So that's going to become negative 3y equals negative 4x plus 9. Remember, you can't put them together. One has an x and one doesn't. Divide everything through by negative 3, and then that's going to go to 4/3 x minus 3. All right, so take a look at your slopes. This one has a slope of 4/3. This one has a slope of 3/4. Yes, they're flips or reciprocals of each other, but is one positive and one negative? No. So this one, my answer is going to be neither. They are neither parallel nor perpendicular. All right, the next one here, how about 6y equals negative x plus 6, not in slope-intercept form, but I can quickly get it there. Divide everything through by 6, and that's going to be negative 1/6x plus 1. Check out my slopes. They're both negative 1/6, so my answer is going to be the same. And since the slopes are the same, they are parallel lines. All right. Next on our note sheet, it says, write the equation of a line that passes through 2, 4 and is perpendicular to y equals 1/3 x minus 1. All right, here we go. The line that is here is my line. That's Mrs. Defoe's line. Your line and my line are perpendicular. So you got to think about what that means for the slopes. They're not the same. You got to flip it and change the sign. So I'm going to put my little stuff up here that I have to fill in. Mine is 1/3. Let's see how good you are. Flip it and change the sign. Yours should be negative 3. Am I happy? Is that first ordered pair, first number a 0? I got to do some extra work. I'm going to put the 4 in for the y. I'm going to put the 2 in for the x. That's going to come out to be negative 6. To get rid of that, you need to add 6 to both sides. 4 plus 6 makes 10. So I'm going to put my 10 in my box at the end. That's my y-intercept. So negative 3x plus 10, And there it is, choice D. Choice D. Okay, let's see what we have next here. Let's try one more of these. You might want to stop it, see if you got it, check it, and then we'll be good. All right, so here we go. My line has a slope of 2. Let's see how good you are. Your line should have a slope. You got to flip it and change the sign. Flip it, it becomes 1/2. Change the sign, it should be negative. Happy or sad? I'm got to do some extra work here. I got to put the 8 in for the y. I'm going to throw that 1 in for the x, and here we go. Negative 1/2 times 1 is negative 1/2. To get rid of it, you're going to add 1/2. So my answer is going to be 8 and 1/2 is my B. 8 and 1/2. All right, and the last thing we have here to look at is a story problem. So take a look at this, see what you have here. It says an architect uses software to design the ceiling of a room. The architect needs to enter an equation that represents a new beam. The new beam is perpendicular to the existing beam, which is represented by the red line. So here's what they're talking about. I have to draw a new beam that's going to be perpendicular to the red line. Can I draw it like that? Are the red and the blue line perpendicular? No. How about like this? Is that perpendicular? No. Is this perpendicular? 90 degrees? Yes. But they said it's got to go through this point right here. So I got to take this line and I got to slide it down here. Or in other words, it's going to look something like that. So here's what I got to know. I got to know the slope of my blue line. Well, I don't know exactly where it is, so I can't really tell, but I can find the slope of the red line, flip it and change the sign. So here we go. I'm going to use, what ordered pairs would be good? I probably would use 12, 0, looks like a good point to use. You could use 12, 0 and 0, 8 because it looks like they hit right there. 12, 0 and 0, 8. And you could either do your y2 minus y1 or you could do just count up and over if you so choose. I'm going to do the formula here. 8 minus 0 over 0 minus 12. And that's going to come out to be, let's see, that reduces to negative 2/3 for the slope. Now, that's the red line. That's this guy right here. To find my line, I have to flip it and change the sign. So I'm going to flip that and it becomes 3/2. Now, the question is, where is that blue line? Take a look at my graph. Where is that blue line going to cross the y-axis? Now, if you see it's going to go all the way, it's going to cross somewhere down here. So my answer is going to be negative, but the question is, what is it? The only point you know that's on that blue line is right here at 1210. So I'm going to take that. You always got to pick a point that's on your line to write the equation of the line. I'm going to put a 10 in for the y. I'm going to put a 12 in for the x. I'm going to solve this. What do we got here? 2, so that'd be 18. To get rid of that 18, you're going to subtract it from both sides. And oh, I'm so happy because 10 minus 18 is negative 8, and that's what I needed was a negative number. So I'm going to throw that in for my b over here, and my equation should be y equals 3/2 x minus 8. Now, if there's any of this that you're struggling with or having trouble with, make sure you mark it on your notes, or when you get to that homework, mark it on your homework. Have your notes right next to you when you're going through your homework tonight. It'll make your life a lot easier. And make sure you ask me questions tomorrow in class.